Hello and welcome to another edition of our Bits and Bytes live series, where we have short conversations looking at topics through the lens of the communication service provider. And I'm very interested today in today's conversation because we're going to talk about end-to-end service assurance, which is becoming really critical as we start to evolve services and become much more cloud-based in the way services are delivered. So today, I'm very pleased to welcome two eminent people in this field. We have Richard Piasentin, and I hope I've done justice to your name there, Richard. Richard is Chief Marketing Officer and Chief Strategy Officer at Accedian, with a lot of experience in this field. And we have Stephen Spellicy from VMware, who is our Vice President of our Service Provider Marketing, Sales, Readiness and Business Development teams. So welcome to you both. My name is Nigel Stevenson. I'm Director of Market Development for EMEA within our Service Provider group here at VMware. So we're going to talk about end-to-end service assurance. Within that, of course, is the more traditional, I suppose, topic of monitoring and so on. So let's kick off by asking you a question, Stephen. And the world is evolving, the networks are evolving. There's a lot of transformative change happening in areas like the RAN and now, you know, the move towards edge computing and mobile multi-access edge computing and so on. So lots of changes going on. Can you help sort of characterize how those changes are impacting the world of monitoring and service assurance, and maybe also sort of summarize, you know, how you might see the difference between what was monitoring and what is now service assurance? How are those worlds evolving?
Well, thanks, Nigel. The journey that most of the customers we work with, the CSPs in this world, you know, the tier ones and others, are all going through the same kind of, you know, planning cycles to go out and deploy their next generation networks, 5G, obviously. 5G is a capacity opportunity, but it's a coverage issue, right? So it's going to require tens to hundreds of thousands, to, in some cases, some of the largest physical geography coverages, million access points in order to actually be able to connect and enable subscribers to gain access to these new networks. And so with that comes a tremendous amount of complexity as it relates to deployment, ongoing management, configuration. You know, fault management becomes an issue, measuring and understanding quality assurance, and also understanding the quality experience become a paramount challenge. This is a scale problem, and most operations don't have enough staff. They don't have enough hands and feet in order to maintain all of those sites. Anytime there's an issue, it requires a truck roll. That means people have to go to actually a cell site, climb up a tower, go into the cabinet, troubleshoot. That's why remote management and tools are so important, and insight into problems as they occur. Insights also into things that are brewing around those problems that could lead to bigger challenges and issues later on. You know, the difference really between that sort of break-fix world that many of us know well, like, you know, problem, and then we go back and try to figure out what it was. It's very reactive. As we move forward, we rely more on real-time telemetry to understand the hallmarks of issues before they actually emerge. And that's where assurance is becoming more of a prevalent approach to understanding what the subscribers are actually going through and proactively addressing those issues before they become big problems for services.
I get, and I was just thinking that, and you took the words out of my mind. It's becoming, I guess, it's that proactive element that is becoming key. It's one thing to be able to retrospectively understand what happened, but it's much better if we can be proactive and ensure the right things happen and the right things are avoided before they come about. So I'll turn
and
to
the
you.
environment is far more complex than it used to be, right? Cloud native
Right.
infrastructure brings a whole new level of complexity. Cloud native functions, which are vastly different from virtual network functions, which are vastly different from physical infrastructure. All of those things are new. So as you get all these new elements emerging in the plan, and as the rollout begins, the architecture changes, all of those things need to be looked at once again.
So that's a good segue. So Richard, I'll come to you then. Accedian's got a long history in this space, right? So I suppose the first thing to say is this is not new, but it's evolving into something that's very new and very exciting. But there is a history there, and it is, as Stephen just alluded to, it's more than just the new stuff. It's also the old stuff and bringing that whole thing together to deliver end-to-end services. So can you, I suppose, first of all, maybe say a few words about Accedian, just for anybody who's not familiar with the company, and then just give us your perspective on the sort of things that you're doing to help the customer, the CSP, not go beyond monitoring and actually looking at this level of assurance ultimately in their service delivery.
I tell you what, gentlemen, just these first 6 minutes have given me 3 hours of interesting content that I can go into. But I'll try to resist the urge to run off at the mouth. So before I get started, I just want to say it's great to be back online with you, Stephen. It's always
likewise,
a hoot.
Richard.
For the audience out there, this is a VMware-driven event. I love VMware-driven events. I am a longtime VMware user. And it's a real delight for me to be partnering with VMware and their aspirations in the CSP world. And you guys are making some significant waves, and it's fantastic to be a partner with VMware in that context. All right, first and foremost, Accedian is not a startup. We were born, 15 years ago in the trenches of network deployments with our carrier customers. So many people don't know the fact that we're present in 75% of the top 50 CSPs around the world. There are literally billions of people on this planet whose services are monitored and assured by Accedian. We're kind of like that, the secret that's down in the depths historically, but really partnering with our carrier customers to build those networks from the ground up. That gives us a unique perspective in the sense that our company was born in the most complex, demanding environments out there. We started in an environment where microseconds, not milliseconds, microseconds matter. And then things changed. As Stephen talked about, when you think about the networks that our customers are putting in the ground, complexity, as Stephen indicated, you have a tremendous amount of abstraction that's happening between hardware versus software, white box implementations, somebody's code running on somebody else's virtualization environment, mix and match, Open RAN, ORAN, vRAN, all the different variations. It enables a set of services that have never been possible before. One of my children actually asked me, he said, Dad, what's the big deal about 5G? And I said, well, son, there's a variety of things, more capacity. Okay, that's good. Better coverage, as Stephen was talking about. Yeah, that's good. But son, I think for me, the most interesting part of 5G is it's the first publicly available wide area network wireless technology that is deterministic. And he goes, what does that mean? It means that the quality of that service that you receive can be guaranteed. Now, it costs something to do it, but at least it can be done. So why am I telling all this story? All of this comes together, and it does create complexity, but it creates an environment of innovation. And that innovation really centers on the idea that Stephen and I's carrier customers, VMware's and Accedian's, are trying to change the very nature of the services that they offer and to guarantee performance across their wireless networks. That's never been done before, guys. That's new. And we're trying to do it with the latest and greatest software and hardware technologies that exist period. And oh, by the way, it has to coexist with 25 years of deployed infrastructure. So, service assurance is a passion of Accedian's. It's clearly a passion of mine. It's very, very important to VMware's aspirations in this area. And we're pleased to be a partner with VMware for service assurance for your carrier customers.
Excellent. And within that, I mean, you very, very, very kindly didn't do a product plug there, but I will for you. So this is where your Skylight solution set comes in. Yeah, this is what you're looking to address is to take on that, not just the existing infrastructure, but also the potential of the newer, if you like, the cloud first developments, which are giving you, and the 5G developments, which are giving you that deterministic capability. So now we can go and literally expect to be able to deliver and proactively deliver a level of service to a customer. So we're not just monitoring it to see if we made the grade and pay a penalty if we didn't. We're actually saying, no, we're going to monitor this network and we are going to ensure that delivery.
Absolutely. So Skylight is our cloud native service assurance platform. And I say that very intentionally because it's a platform first. And the reason it's a platform first, it's open on the northbound, open APIs northbound, which are consumed by TCA ops. And it's open on the southbound side from an ingest perspective. We do have a suite of software and hardware enabled sensors that we can deploy in a carrier's network, but that's not where we start. We start with, well, what do you already have? Now, that's actually where the integration between us and VMware sort of starts, because typically there's a virtualization environment, which in and of itself has KPIs, right? What's my workload's CPU occupancy? What is the state of the virtual network that's connecting the workloads, et cetera? That's now in this complex open environment, a piece of the infrastructure that needs to be piped into the performance characteristics that we're seeing across the network. All of that has to be integrated, correlated, and then fed up. And this is the most important part from at least my perspective, fed up into the orchestration framework of the carrier's network. Gone are the days where people can manage these networks. You cannot. It has to be machines managing those networks. Now, you need people to address the things that you can't predict or plan for, right? And you need to harness ML and AI technologies to focus those very skilled resources to the most problematic areas. But in general, a person can no longer be watching a screen and do it. And Stephen said something really interesting in his intro. He always does. Always give me like so much material. The difference between proactive and reactive. Okay, this is vital. And if there's no other message that gets across to our combined carrier customers, I hope it's this one. So the historical break fix, you called it break fix, Stephen, that made me smile. I remember that from my early days as an engineer. It's busted, roll a truck, go fix something, right? I mean, personally, I love driving trucks, but not really sustainable in a modern environment. Reactive versus proactive. Now, this may sound a little esoteric, guys, but we have active and passive technologies. Passive technologies are technologies that watch what the actual customer traffic is doing. Okay, so if you're a customer, you're like, yeah, I want to know you're monitoring my personal experience. Those tend to be passive technologies because we have to watch what's happening across all the infrastructure, correlate it, figure out what's happening with somebody's experience, and then identify the offending piece of infrastructure. Just as by the way, that's a really short version of what Accedian does. Active and proactive is a different set of technologies. And what's really key is in your service assurance platform, you have to do both. You have to monitor your real customer's experience all the time and identify if something is happening. But as importantly, you need to be simulating users in advance and looking for proactively looking for service degradation before your customers are impacted. A combination of those technologies, really critical in a modern environment.
Awesome. Thanks. Great overview. Thank you, Richard. And so one thing is I'm listening to you there. I'm thinking if we look at our, the VMware technology, I'll come to you, Stephen, and maybe Richard, you can comment on this as well. But just to help folks understand that there is a lot of automation, there's a lot of assurance within the VMware, what we would refer to as our telco cloud portfolio. We have a product called TCSA, a service assurance product. So that sounds like the same thing, but I know it isn't. But I'll ask you the question: how does the sort of monitoring assurance type capabilities that VMware is doing within the area that we're operating, how does that dovetail, and how is that complemented by what Richard and Accedian is doing? How do those two areas work together?
Well, our technology is the telco cloud infrastructure, which essentially telco cloud platform is a footprint of technology that enables operators to modernize their networks, their service provider networks. The move from physical network equipment provider-based traditional solutions, siloed, if you will, pieces of the infrastructure and boxes and appliances that are all connected by wires. 5-6 years ago, there was a big move in the industry to move to network, function virtualization. That's happened for the most part across the industry, and as that's happened, you've moved into more of a virtual world where there aren't any physical boxes, so to speak, that are all hardwired. Yes, there's still wires, there's still servers, but we have a lot more going on inside of those servers. As that happened, there was an emergence or need to understand what's going on in that world. That's our technologies have emerged from that, not only to monitor and analyze how those things affect the end-to-end service chain of a particular network service, but also how they work with the physical world, those things that they don't own, manage, and control, or have physical access to. When we get into that world, both in the virtual network function world and NFV, as well as in the future containerized cloud native function world, where it's far more complex, it's using more advanced technology, Kubernetes based, the complexity increases, but the challenge remains the same. You have a bunch of things that are effectively virtual inside of a physical instance, which is connected to a real world network. Where we intersect, and really where the marriage of our partnership is in Accedian's ability through Skylight to be able to feed us information, so the administrators of that telco cloud platform and those associated tools that come from VMware can gain the benefit of the insights that are being delivered by Accedian and their technologies, and they are fed into, rationalized, and viewed and made available through our technology interfaces. We can't do it all. We need an ecosystem of partners who have access to the various elements within the network themselves, and to be able to pull those interesting insights into a rationalized view for the VMware administrator who works within the CSP industry to be able to manage their networks, grow their networks, deploy their networks at scale. We do that with partners like Accedian, and Accedian provides highly valuable information, both in the physical interface and where they insert in the network to do that passive monitoring, as well as the active monitoring that Richard just went through, which is really next generation in how you view managing quality of service and quality experience in the network.
Excellent. Richard, do you want to add anything to Steve?
Well, I would just say, it's interesting because we were, obviously for the audience, we did talk about all this before we got in front of you. And, one of the things we were saying, to Stephen and I, it's crystal clear why the integration of the portfolios is so valuable, but to others it may seem like there's a lot of overlap. The way I'd like to describe it, and how I explained it to my own CEO, is I said, listen, it's kind of one of those moments where we not only feed TCA cloud operations and the service assurance stack, but we actually take a feed from it. So those of you that are Excel advocates out there, maybe, well, hang on, that sounds like a circular reference. It's not exactly, because what's actually happening is, at some level, because the center of the universe for the CSP is moving from the NMS of the NEM to the telco cloud ops front end, because the vast majority of the infrastructure lives in that virtual world that Stephen's talking about. However, There is a physical world. There's a radio network itself. There are sensors and detectors and probes and things throughout the rest of the infrastructure, that now that the front end, the dominant front end is actually now the VMware front end, the VMware front end needs to be informed about the rest of the infrastructure. That's where we come in, right? We blend it all together. We generate the insights. We do the correlation. We trigger thresholds, activity, etc., based on whether it's proactive or passive analysis. And we feed that to the system of record, you could argue, that is the telco cloud.
Excellent, excellent. So look, it always comes back to the ecosystem, right? It's it's the opening up of the environment, bringing in the players. It's just changing changing the what's possible. So we're getting close on time. I always say we like to time this, and actually, you're living proof, Richard. It's a coffee conversation, so we're getting to the end of our coffees. So I'll finish up with one last question. I don't know who wants to start, but we've got this great collaboration going. What are you guys looking forward to in terms of how that collaboration goes forward, and perhaps what should our customers be looking out for over the coming months and years?
I'll just say, Nigel, that we've done some great work this year and in mid-year in 21 around collaboration on solutions, and we've been able to expose our customers to the benefit of combining these products, and we've integrated these products and enabled through API integration the ability to connect and do exactly what Richard said. That is all available today on our telco.vmware.com site, which is our main landing page for our telco cloud business. If anyone wants to take a look at that, you can take a look at that, but that's not where it ends, right? That's sort of a basic table stakes of how you connect these things together and start to reap the value of two products working together in the market. Where we're headed next is to work on new and emerging use cases. We see opportunities emerging in the enterprise around private networks and the ability to monitor quality of experience, mobile connectivity for private 5G. We also know that with the added benefit of network slicing will come new complexity and more pressure on monitoring, analyzing, and observing the quality of assurance, quality of service and experience around those new network slicing technologies. Beyond that, we are working in collaboration to bring a demo near you in one of the many VMware locations around the world in which we have demo centers, to be able to give our customers the ability to get hands-on with our technologies together and see what these use cases can do for them. So those are just a few things we're doing in collaboration, have already done, continue to do, and will be doing in the future. Excellent,
excellent. Richard, anything, final word from yourself?
You know, sometimes it just sucks to be the guy that has to go second. All I'll say is, I look forward to coming back on the next bits and bytes and with Stephen and talk about the demo centers that we have rolled out together.
We should do that. So we'll have to put a note in the diary for 2 or 3 months out and come back and give folks an update. So, but yeah, so for now, I know there's been quite a few comments online while we've been chatting, and thank you for that. Thank you for the audience for getting involved. Any questions, obviously you can reach out. Easiest is probably through LinkedIn, and we'll make sure if you've got any questions, we'll get answers back to you. But for now, thanks, Stephen. Thanks, Richard. Very enjoyable conversation. Looking forward to doing it again in a few months by the sounds of it. That'd be great. Until now, for everybody watching, thank you very much.
Cheers, gentlemen. It's always a pleasure.
Great to talk to you both.